how much will the new president now, make a difference at all?
He has to make a difference because he's aware that the country has lost crucial time during the 5 years of the Hollande presidency. He knows that we have increased the national debt by 300 billion euros in 5 years, and we have 1 million more unemployed when we had 5 years ago, and therefore the situation, which was difficult to begin with at the time of the financial crisis, is now catastrophic. He has said that he would take stringent measures to liberalize the labor market so that would create more jobs and make the country more attractive. But his first job literally now is going to think up a budget in order to make cuts so that the country can slowly start going back to a viable economic situation.
I see. Mr. Cui, though, we all understand Mr. Macron, with his new party, he has to find his allies in order to, first of all, form a government, and secondly, to make everything he has in mind to be passed in the Congress. But that's not easy. So really, what he's thinking and what could he do?
Yes, I think that because as we know, according to his campaign platform, President Macron regarded himself as a centrist, which means that he will try to do something different from the past, from the traditional parties. But another question, yes, just like you mentioned, that firstly, how could President Macron to try to reorganize the politicals in France, and then how to deal with this test in forthcoming legislative election, especially for his new party. And then how could he get a cooperative government in France to do something more, reform it?
He really, as the new president, and the president who is still pro-Europe, which is going against the rise of nationalism and deglobalization, needs to have some early harvest in his administration, I guess, for people to be convinced that he is the one for the job. So, Ms. Moutet, despite of the young age, really, Mr. Macron has to prove himself. What could be the thing that can immediately help him to prove himself in front of the public in France?
To some extent, the age is seen here as a positive, because we've had a succession of old men, and we've had a succession of people who looked incredibly like the person who had come before. So the age in itself is actually helping, because he says, I am different. I have led this incredible campaign. You didn't know me 2 years ago, and now I'm president of France. And I would like, now is the time for all of us to do something exceptional, and it can be done. So what he's doing, it may be long on communication and short on fact, but it is something that is a bit like the message of hope of somebody like Obama or Justin Trudeau. It's saying, this is a new generation, we have to do things differently. And you need political credit, you need public approval in order to take any reform. The only reforms that he's got to take are going to be painful. So he really needs to have all this communication thing so that people will accept them in a combination of, yes, we trust him, and yes, we are capable of undergoing some amount of pain, as long as he can show us that it is done in a just way, not just for one part of the population.
Yeah, but Ms. Moutet, you talk about two case studies. President Obama, the former president of the United States, and now also the Prime Minister of Canada. You see very different case studies because of national conditions and also international circumstances. One seemed to still manage very well at this point in Canada, and yet President Obama, some say he is a lame duck president, even though he doesn't like that title. So what about Mr. Macron? His fate, I think that is an interesting comparison we can do over here. Ms. Moutet, very briefly from you.
One of the things I would say is that he is lucky in that the economy, the world economy is on the upturn. It took quite a bit of time for the financial crisis of 2008 to be digested by the economy, but right now we see growth everywhere else. Now that helps tremendously, because that means that people will want to buy stuff from France, and which is also why he's got a number of economic and policy decisions to take in France. but he also must coordinate this with Europe, and especially with Germany, because the last thing France needs right now is for the euro to go up, and this is exactly what it's doing. The dollar is going down, the pound is of course going down because of Brexit. If the euro goes up, we cannot sell whatever it is that we produce, and we produce a number of goods. But that would actually be incredibly unhelpful for France.
Okay.
But the Germans like it, would like it. That's his big first hurdle, I would say.
Yeah. Mr. Cui, Ms. Moutet talked about two very important points. One is some of the economic policy agendas he had during his campaign. Some of them, for example, buy European. The other thing is France's relationship with Germany, which has been quite going up and downs over the decades. So, Mr. Cui, with your perspective, what do you think about that two possibilities, economically and also German-France relations?
Yes, President Macron regarded as pro-European politicians, and it's also very, very remarkable political claims of him. But now, of course, as we understand, certainly according to President Macron's claims that the economic development of France will be relied on the European development. And also, as we know, especially after the Brexit, and it shows that France needed to take a more leading role, especially compared with recent years, this the up of Germany. But of course, now the question is, I think that no matter which kind of propose or policy by Mr. Macron, firstly, he needed to deal with domestic challenges, especially economically, and then of course at the same time, so-called buy European. I hope that it's just campaign words.
Okay.
And I don't think that the protection, any kind of protectionism in European Union or in France will be the way out of the difficult situation at this moment.
Ms. Moutet, we only have 30 seconds left for you. Yes, the two leaders are going to meet, France, Germany, that's going to be something. So is there some specific barometer we should look at as a result of that meeting? What would be the one that would prove it's successful or it's not? Ms. Moutet, final words.
To some extent, it's going to be how Angela Merkel reacts to this visit. You have to remember that they know one another, that he was the Minister for the Economy, that he saw her also during the campaign, so probably he already told her what he was expecting from Germany. But by and large, the problem is that France has not abided by European rules in terms of keeping the budget deficit at 3% of GDP. And so what he needs to make her believe is that, yes, he can bring it back to 3% of GDP for 2018, and that's not so easy because since practically the Maastricht Treaty, we never, ever delivered on that promise.
Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, we are running out of time. Cui Hongjian as well. Thank you so much. Running out of time for our program. Thank you so much. That is the time we have for today.